Welcome back. This morning, we have a wonderful business feature for you. It is of a veteran-owned business, an American-made product. It's called Authentically American. The headquarters based in Nashville, so right here at home in Middle Tennessee. I am excited to share my interview and sit down with its founder and CEO, Dean Wegner, who is a veteran. He shares with us how this business came to be, how he is giving back to other veterans, and also what it was like to be recognized as the 2024 Tennessee Veteran-Owned Business of the Year.
It was humbling because I knew there were a lot of veteran-owned businesses in the state of Tennessee, but I didn't know there were 8,000. To think that we were the one and only selected last year from 8,000, I mean, I was humbled and incredibly honored being a veteran. And like you, I love to tell stories and love to invest in veterans, and that's what I've tried to highlight to other veterans is, you know what, there's some great resources out there, and the SBA is just one of them. And as part of some of the interview and back and forth is, I've had people reach out to me and, Dean, tell me more. Tell me more about the story and tell me more about your brand. And I don't have a ton of free time given how busy we are, but when a fellow veteran reaches out and is asking for help, I want to be an entrepreneur at maybe evenings or weekends, but we'll find a time to go ahead and invest and give back and find time to help. To give you an idea how rare American made is, when I graduated from West Point back in 1993, over 50% was made in the US. Today it's 3. I mean, next to nothing is made here in the US. And that is our real point of differentiation. Everything, is all American made by American workers. There's 2 things we do, and we're relatively small right now, but we do donate 10% of our profit to veteran and first responder charities. But a very intentional choice we made day one is how we price our products. And if you have, X% of your revenue set aside for charitable giving, that's a finite amount. But we have made a very intentional choice. We have 2 pricing tiers. So if you are a for-profit business, whether it's Pepsi, J&J, any Fortune 500 middle market or small business, you're paying full price. If you are a charity or nonprofit, whether you're a veteran or any other type of charity or nonprofit, you're paying at cost. So the difference between those 2, Stephanie, we have helped well over 1,000 charities, build their brand and raise some money in the process. Being a startup, but I entered the military through West Point. And one of the things you do your senior year at West Point, you choose a branch. And I had no idea until arriving at West Point, there's 18 different branches to choose. There's infantry, which is the heart and soul of the Army. There's tanks, field artillery, so all these combat arms. But in all these combat service support, whether it's finance or military police or transportation, and I narrowed the choice down to 2. Number 1 was infantry. And if you want to be a general in the Army, the best path to go is the infantry. That's where most generals come from. But you remember that movie, Stephanie, Top Gun? The first one?
Yes, I do.
That was one of my favorite movies growing up, and I thought, you know what? I would look really cool in a flight suit. And I ultimately ended up choosing the aviation path. But as I was at flight school, I kept wondering, did I make the right choice? And at flight school, the commander made an announcement and said, once in a lifetime opportunity, we're going to have a competition and send one of you to Ranger School. And I thought, Stephanie, well, here's my chance. And I was very fortunate, won that competition, had an opportunity to go to Ranger School, and found out it was miserable. It was absolutely awful. And I didn't know it back then, but it was great training for leading a startup. And here's why. It was no sleep and incredible stress. And that's the life I've been living as an entrepreneur. My Ranger buddy back then was Marine Corps Infantry Sergeant Roy Backey. And the lesson I took away from Ranger School, whether it's being an entrepreneur or other significant challenges you have, I mean, life can be tough. Life can be incredibly difficult, and being a flight suit wearing aviator, I mean, I had no business being there at Ranger School, but, big believer in service and mission, and Roy and I talked day one and said, you know what, we are going to look out for each other. We're going to have each other's back, and we are going to go ahead and graduate together. and we made it, and 30 years later we still keep in touch. And the lesson I have now is, if you have something incredibly difficult you're going to pursue, don't go it alone. I mean, find that ranger buddy in life to do it with you. You have asked, interviews before, and we've been blessed with some incredible national media coverage. And the very first time I was on national TV was on Fox and Friends. And what's nice, you're focused on the local market, the state of Tennessee, so this is now a Tennessee resident. And this is not to get political, but this was Pete Hegseth. And just a quick disclaimer, so when it comes to politics, Stephanie, I tell everybody, we're not red or blue. We're red, white, and blue. We believe in the American worker. So this is not a story about politics, but the very first time was invited on national TV was in 2018. It was on Fox and Friends, and I met Pete Hegseth backstage, and I gave him this fun pair of patriotic socks. It's a mismatch. And a year later, I was invited back, and Pete was interviewing me. And he's like, Dean, it is so great to see you again. I still have the socks you gave me. They're my favorite pair. And I said, Pete, please say that on national TV. And this is another one that Pat loves, that I love, that also highlights and reinforces the story around, hey, veteran-owned and American-made is important, but what is truly most important as a consumer brand is delivering an amazing product experience. So Stephanie, have you ever been to the Army-Navy game?
I've not.
I would recommend you put it on your bucket list because it is an incredible experience. But I'm sure you're familiar with the Army-Navy game and what a rivalry it is.
Yes.
So this is one of my favorite t-shirts. If you can see it, it's got the Go Army here. And if you can feel this like you did the socks, feel the fabric.
Oh, nice. That is
Yep,
great.
how incredibly soft and comfortable. And it's not just the fabric. We use a soft hand print to include tagless.
Oh.
But here's something I wanted to highlight with this one, Stephanie. This one has our innovation, our sweat-activated print innovation. So with the Army-Navy rivalry in mind, watch what happens when I spray this. You can see two of my favorite words appear, and in case you couldn't see it in small writing, you can see it even bigger. Can you read what that says, Stephanie?
Yes, Beat Navy.
Beat Navy. And here's where I highlight that, similar to Pete Hegseth and the socks, I've literally had people say, Dean, no offense, I don't care where it's made. The shirt is so incredibly soft and comfortable. And when Beat Navy appeared, that is just amazing. And back to 90% of our revenue being custom, we've created hundreds of designs. So whatever you want printed, whatever you want magically to appear, we can do. And here's what's really neat, because what I love about the technology is it reinforces the value of having a tireless work ethic. So our clients and their custom designs, many of them now will have their values or have their mission statement magically appear, reinforcing the value of hard work.
What's next for this business, this company?
So growth is the number one word for us, and 90% of our revenue now, Stephanie, is custom. So we work with thousands of businesses. Many of them are in the state of Tennessee. But we should be working with tens of thousands of businesses. And that's why I was so excited to be introduced to you with your incredible program that you have, because here's a whole new audience now that will have an opportunity to go ahead and hear our story and realize that there is a high quality, American-made, competitively priced option for their business.